everyone. Welcome to Authority Architects. Today we have Juliana Halvorson, VP of Marketing at Pioneer Bank, joining us today. Thank you so much for joining us, Juliana.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know you've been leading marketing at Pioneer Bank since 2013, but I'd love to just hear for those who don't know a little bit about Pioneer, who you are, what your bank does. I know that you're based in Roswell, New Mexico. Obviously, there's a lot of alien stories that have happened in Roswell, but um, that's a story for another time. Uh, but we'd love to hear about Pioneer and what you're doing there.
Yeah, so my background is in marketing pretty much. I started it, when I was going to college here, they asked for people to apply at the local television station. So I applied, started as a camera operator. After several years, I moved up to production manager, and I started getting more and more involved in the community. And I've been involved in the community since I was in college. Um, So how I got started at Pioneer Bank was I worked, at the television stations, then they closed the local ones because it just the market wasn't there. So then I started working at actually a local Christmas ornament manufacturing plant, and I did marketing there and design for the ornaments and stuff. So you'll see Christmas ornaments with my designs all over the world, which is pretty cool. And then I decided to start my own marketing business. So I did that. I did that for almost 10 years. And I was doing marketing for the bank, and they had a marketing lady, and then she moved, and they didn't replace her, so I showed up at the bank, and I said, "Hey, I know marketing, I know nothing about banking or finance, other than my own personal finances, but I think I can do the job." So they hired me, and that's where I got on board here, and, we've been growing ever since.
Wow. That's awesome. So we do work with a number of banks, LMB Bank, Old Missouri Bank, I believe is what that stands for, and Wispus Bank. We stand for service, um, is a client of ours as well. But I'm curious. Obviously, every local bank has its nuances. And you're primarily in Roswell, right, for Pioneer Bank?
Well, we're actually pretty spread out all across the whole southern half of the state. We have 11 branches, 3 in Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is growing, 2 in Hobbs, 1 in Carlsbad, 1 in Alamogordo, and 1 in Ruidoso. So we're spread out pretty well across the whole southern half of the state of New Mexico.
Oh, wow. Okay. So when we talk about banking and like localities to banks, what would you say are some of the nuances that you've had to work through being like a local bank in your area?
Well, being so spread out, every market's so different. The politics are different, the communities are different, so it's a challenge to try to, reach out, but what's helpful is we are a community bank, so our employees live and work, in the community, so they know what their community needs, they know what the nuances are of their community. So we try to work with every community, differently because again, marketing is different for each community because of the culture and, where they live.
I'm curious, Juliana, you mentioned in your intro having worked at in marketing for a Christmas ornament manufacturing plant, I think you said.
Yes.
What, if any, is the overlap in the marketing of that type of product and organization that transfers to what you do now?
Well, it's actually quite completely different because, with the Christmas order, you were selling an actual, physical product that, people are gonna buy. That's just guaranteed. So, there's not much competition in the Christmas ornament manufacturing either. There's several large companies, but we were like one of the top leading because we had companies. It was a family that moved here from Germany, so they had, they sold ornaments from Germany and the United States. Um, so banking, you're not selling, you're selling a product, but it's not a tangible physical product. And it's a little harder to market and compete, especially, with the big banks. That's why we really, really push being a community bank because we really are invested in the community. And there's other community banks too, but I like to think we're the best because we do a lot
I,
more.
I
When
wouldn't
we went out
expect any
volunteering.
different.
Yeah. When we would go out and volunteer, we actually had other banks, which sadly we didn't want this to happen. They said, "We don't even show up because you guys just overwhelm everyone." Because we had bright green shirts, now we're changing to red too, but we're so visible out there, and we want more people to volunteer. We don't wanna be competition. We want it to be a community effort, but, yeah, we've been growing pretty well the past few years.
And what would you say some of the marketing strategies that you've employed that have really worked? I would imagine you mentioned kind of really leaning on that local, community aspect, but what have you done from a actual kind of actionable standpoint that's made that visible or shared that with the community? What have been the leading strategies there?
The biggest strategy that we have is just reaching out to the customers, understanding what they want. I mean, when they come in, our tellers know their names. Um, and the biggest one that I've seen the biggest impact on is our volunteer program. We're out there in the community. We donate, we're big philanthropists in the community. We give to nonprofits, youth organizations, and then we're out there physically working in the community so people see us. And that makes a huge difference. There have been studies shown that banks or any industry that's more involved in the community, they they're just they're more visible and people appreciate what they do. So that's been the biggest impact, I think, is just volunteering and being out there. And we obviously provide great service. Customer service and our products, are pretty top notch, and we keep up with the times. So yeah, we do like mobile payments, and so we're pretty contemporary.
And uh, have you all done anything from a digital marketing standpoint at all that you felt like has been truly standout, or do you think that the kind of on the ground efforts really lead the way with your strategy?
I think so. When we go out and volunteer, or even we highlight our businesses, we do videos that just show our efforts. We take photos. We use a lot of digital products. I've been getting more into trying to use some AI. I did try to use the Sasquatch videos, but my boss was like, "Yeah, no, I do that." I go, "That's what everyone's doing. People love it." But he's like, "We don't want to go down that road." So, but yeah, I think the biggest thing is the digital presence because we have a YouTube page. We post videos on Facebook all the time, and I don't see any other banks in our region doing what we do on it from a digital standpoint.
And is that the content that's on your YouTube, for example, obviously kind of recaps of community engagement, it sounds like is big. Would you say that there's a focus on like education, like, financial literacy, things like that? That's just from our experience what we've seen other banks doing in kind of different areas, but is that something that you guys have approached or is that not as relevant?
No, it is very relevant. We actually we have a third party vendor in Beaver Creek, and they create a lot of those videos, and we share those as well. Talking about fraud, protection, elder abuse. We share a lot of those videos because that's critical to any bank to educate the customers to know what to look out for.
You mentioned, Juliana, the service. I just want to go back to that and note. So you yourself have earned multiple presidential volunteer service awards. Is that right? Am I?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So like when you came in as lead for marketing at Pioneer, how did service play a role in that? Like, I know you're saying a lot of community engagement, but like, what does that look like for you? And does that play a big role in the marketing?
So my first presidential service award I earned was just somebody from the community nominated me, and I received that long before I was even involved in the bank or anything. And it's just a big honor. So when um when I started at the bank and I went to several conferences, that was one of the conferences they pointed out that if you're out there volunteering, you should, submit your employees for the Presidential Volunteer Service Award. So I've been doing that probably for the past 5, 6 years. Any employees that work over 100 volunteer hours, and we use a software that tracks their hours and whether it's ECR, the Community Reinvestment Act eligible, because every bank's I think a lot of service organizations or companies, I think accountants and stuff, but you have to keep track and you have to give back to the community. It's required by the CRA. And so this is a great opportunity. It encourages and enhances our volunteer program. It it encourages the employees to go out and volunteer to, a goal to reach because we've had several people that want that award. So, they can go and volunteer more. And a lot of our branches, that's part of their business plan is how many hours their employees are going to volunteer, every year.
That's really cool. I'm curious, Juliana, I know I'm jumping around here, but as you're talking, kind of different things are popping into my head and taking us on tangents a little bit. Is there a backstory to the name Pioneer Bank? Like, when was that chosen or why?
Yeah, it was I have to go to our history on our website. It was established in 1901. So before New Mexico was even a state, we were still a territory. It was established as a home loan. It wasn't Pioneer Bank. Our name goes through several changes through the years. But it was established as to even the governor in New Mexico, he was on our board. So at the time, Hinkle. So it was established, again, as a home loan bank, so it would provide mortgages for people, and then it just grew from there. Then it went to just a savings bank, and then we grew a lot because of mortgages, but we don't focus on mortgages anymore. We just focus more on just community banking now.
Now I have images of, like, old Western movies popping up into my head, and Pioneer Bank being one of the doors that the good guy walks into or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's
we have
wild.
the articles of incorporation and everything from way back when, so it's pretty neat.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I think we're the
Um,
oldest bank. I can't guarantee that, but I think we are, if not the oldest, we're one of the oldest banks in the state.
that's so cool. Um, what's something about local banking marketing that people might find surprising? And obviously we talked about the volunteer and the community engagement efforts, but if there's anything else that comes to mind, like a specific initiative that you're proud of.
Yeah, so marketing for banking locally, it's not just about banking, it's about the community and knowing the people and knowing what the community needs. Like I mentioned earlier, the industry reports show that banks that are more involved, they do better because they do have a vested interest. We truly believe that, and we don't just say it. We actually do care about our communities. There's several local projects that we've worked on that we're all really very proud of. I don't know if you're aware, but Ruidoso, New Mexico, that's one of our communities. They experienced fires and then floods last year, and it was just horrific. And then this entire year, every time they've flooded like 4 or 5 times already this year again because the fires. There's nothing holding the ground. We did fundraisers for that. Roswell experienced in last October just a natural disaster, huge floods. We've lost so many homes. We did fundraising for that. So we're out there in the community. We are trying to raise funds. We're volunteering to help clean up the community. And it's still ongoing. I mean, Roswell's still recovering. Redoso is trying to recover, but they keep flooding. So the proudest achievements I have is that we're able to help those people in the community by raising funds. Pioneer Bank has a foundation as well. We we gave a lot of money to a lot of the people in the communities that because FEMA doesn't do so much, and it's just hard dealing with them. A lot of people still haven't even received their funds. So with the foundation, we gave like $15,000 to several different individuals because being an individual, they sometimes don't qualify for the flood assistance, and that only covers certain things. It only covers the inside. So if a rancher lost, 10 acres of fencing, they need help with that because they still need to keep their animals that didn't die in the flood pen. So that's our biggest achievement, I think, this past year at least, is just helping out those who suffered the natural disasters.
Wow. Yeah, and that's amazing. I mean, that's commendable work for a local bank to be
And I
doing
do have
that
to mention
now.
the Federal Home Loan Bank, they helped out a huge amount too. They gave to both communities.
So, um, when you're thinking about your market specifically, and like the authenticity of like, hey, like there's obviously like the Wells Fargo and TD banks of the world, which are on one end, and then the local banks, which are on the other end. Um, how do you balance authenticity with competing with those larger banks as well in terms of marketing?
Well, I know they have local people, that obviously live and work there, but being authentic is, super important to us. Like I said, we're a community bank. We truly believe in supporting the community. We donate to the organizations that need the help. We're out there physically volunteering, which we don't see a lot of the other, especially the name brand banks, doing. So our authenticity isn't the proof. We're just, actions speak louder than words. So that's where we think we're more authentic.
Makes sense. And what would you say is on the horizon or things that you're excited about through the latter part of this year or on the horizon for next year, as far as the bank itself, marketing, community initiatives that you all have going on? What should people be looking out for?
So the path we've been on, it's actually moving forward. We're going to continue down this path. I'm excited about, continuing to deepen our connection with the community. More and more people, as the more and more we help, the more and more the word gets out that we do help. Um, which I'm trying to work on, more digital aspects of creating videos of how we're supporting the local businesses, the local residents, and the nonprofits. Because we want to support causes that matter to the community. So we just want to create opportunities, that lift up our community and the people that live in it. Um, I see our brand growing, just in recognition and just in making a positive difference every day. So,
That's awesome. Well, before we adjourn here, Juliana, is there anything else that you want to share about your work, the bank, kind of anything before where might people find you, website, anything like that?
so yeah, our website is pioneer.bank. That's the new URL that they came out with now to for security and stuff. We are on Facebook, and we are on TikTok. We don't post much to TikTok because it's banned here at the bank. So, um, but we're on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel. I encourage everyone. I just hope we keep growing. I want to start using more digital products, more videos, because that's what really, really works to reach out to people is the digital, the videos, the photos, and the shorts too.
Well, we're certainly biased, but we definitely agree with that. As
Yeah,
does
you
I
guys
think
do a great job. I do. I
a
agree.
lot
Yeah.
of our audience does too. So
Yeah.
you'll be preaching to the choir for sure. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us today, Juliana. It was really
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you.
gentlemen.